Hey guys, yeah, we just had a bit of a computer internet problem that on my end, so that's unfortunate. Luckily for us, it'll all get fixed in op, so nothing for you guys. In fact, you're probably just confused why I just started speaking like this out of nowhere. But we had just finished talking about how Anna's Superlative Award of Teacher's Pet was incredibly fitting for her, and how I agreed and voted for her. And when she says landslide, she wasn't kidding. She got like 110 votes, and there were like 120 cast, so that was a fitting award to be sure. The next topic of conversation that I was hoping to hit on was Anna's English project. As you know, this podcast series is for my grade 12 Global Goals English class. And the other students in the class all had their own projects. And Anna's worked closely with the Phoenix Learning Center, a local homeless initiative in the city of Fredericton, where she actually raised a lot of money and did a lot of good to raise awareness and participate in the process of seeing how those things work. So I'll let Anna take it from there and explain how that went.
I'll start, I guess, just by explaining a little bit about the Phoenix. So the Phoenix Learning Center opened up in October, I believe, in our city on the south side. And they act as a drop-in center for people experiencing homelessness to go during the day. So right now they're open from, I believe, 9 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., 7 days a week. They just got funding to extend their hours. But essentially they offer all kinds of services like they get meals from the community kitchen of lunch and supper every day. They have a space where people can shower. They offer hygiene products, towels, space to sleep, and also just meeting space. And they run a lot of pilot projects for people to meet with teams, probation officers, any of the appointments or various meetings they might need to have. So for my project, we focused on homelessness, and I began volunteering at the Phoenix Learning Center towards the beginning of the semester and was quickly very, very captivated by the environment and the initiative they had going on there. Our project went a little bit outside of the box, and what we did was we lived 24 hours a day in the life of someone experiencing homelessness. So that included spending the day downtown, accessing food and resources from the community kitchen and the Phoenix Learning Center themselves, using public transit, and then sleeping outside in a tent. And through that, we collected pledges and donations to bring to the Phoenix, and we were able to raise $2,400 to bring in.
That's an incredibly large sum, and I'm sure they'll stretch every penny to bring it to use for good in this world. And I just have noticed something. Well, every time you talk about it, I think these terms are important, and I just like you to explain to the listeners here, the importance of when you refer to people in experience homelessness, you don't refer to them as homeless people. And I picked up that it's probably by intent. So I just wondering if you could explain the importance of that.
So before we began our project of spending time at the center, we did a lot of research on homelessness and the things that are the root causes of homelessness and the effects of it. And what we learned was that chronically, society is very unaccepting of people who are less fortunate than us. And by calling them homeless people, we put the problem or their circumstance before the person. And so I've been making an effort to say people experiencing homelessness because it puts the individual before the issue.
Yes, and that is incredibly important. Just with language in general, because language really shapes a lot of how we see the world, and the words we use and the way we use them shape how we think and how we act. So I think using terms like that and transitioning to a more accepting vocabulary helps the world a lot in making progress towards important issues like working on eliminating homelessness and addressing the root causes instead of how we've been doing things so far. But so your project was an incredible source of inspiration for a lot of people in the class, including myself.
Thank you.
And for any of the listeners here in Fredericton, I know that the Phoenix Learning Center is currently looking for a certain donations. Anna, do you have any specifics on what they're looking for right now?
I believe right now they're looking for things like hygiene products of any kind, feminine hygiene products, toothbrushes, toothpaste, and then for the cold winter months, things like long johns, mittens, hats. I've heard a lot of individuals at the center recently asking for snow pants.
That makes sense. I'm sure staying out in the cold all winter would be a lot better with a warmer set of clothing. And if anyone here has something in abundance that they're able to pass on, it would be greatly appreciated by everyone involved. So transitioning on to the second part of this episode, I'd like to start talking about mental health and in student leadership and how that affects the education system in general. So I would like to ask you just what your general feelings around school mental health are. Very general. We can dive into the specifics afterwards.
As a whole, I would consider the education system very flawed, and very good at making students prioritize external factors above their personal and mental well-being.
I would agree. I know that you yourself are in a lot of high pressure classes and are put on a course that is very objective oriented and that can really take the focus off of the importance of keeping yourself healthy, happy, and otherwise taken care of. If you'd be comfortable, how would you describe your experience with struggling between pressure and um, goals and taking care of yourself?
So I guess I have a long history with mental health and mental illness, and I think that's one of the big reasons I'm such an advocate and an ally for people experiencing mental health issues. But high pressure environments in general and high workloads are perfect conditions for burnout, especially among students who are often overlooked as people who work. Many students have jobs on top of a school workload, and going to school is honestly like a full time job, which often gets disregarded. And I would say that as a whole, high school itself wasn't a huge transition period, but going into my grade 11 year, I experienced a lot of setbacks in my personal mental health journey, when I started struggling with the workload and the idea that you had to make mistakes in order to eventually overcome them. What I did learn, however, is that the only way I can possibly get through a school year and continue to do things and do them well and stay involved in everything I love is by prioritizing my own mental health and taking that, whether it be 15 or 30 minutes a day for myself each day, just to do something mindless, something that takes my mind off of everything else.
And by all means, you've earned that time. When I was doing my research for this project and looking into kind of the effects of school on this on the mental well-being of students and just scheduling in general, I came across a very interesting video by CGP Grey on YouTube that made various claims around the flawed nature of the 5-day work week, especially in educational circumstances, because people don't work best when they are on the work 5 days, take 2 days off mentality, and especially in school when those 2 days off are often filled with homework and non-restful periods. And same with the time off you have after the end of the 3 o'clock bell or 4 o'clock bell, depending on whenever it rings. There were a lot of suggestions on how we can improve just that aspect of burnout and kind of that weekly grind by separating up the days off from, instead of having 5 on 2 off, by having 3 on 1 off and then 2 on 1 off. What would be your views on kind of taking over that model?
Um, to be honest, I don't know how much of a difference that would make for me, because what seems to be the problem is that when you're a student, you don't get to leave your job. So I know my parents and many people in the workforce, when they're done, 9 to 5 job, 9 to 5 day, and when they leave, it's an out of sight, out of mind thing, or at least something that they don't have hours of work to continue on. As a student, I come home from school at 4 p.m., start my homework immediately, and most nights I don't finish till 9 or 10 p.m. That's another like 4, 5, 6 hours that I spend doing homework every night when I'm home. And then, like you said, the weekends are filled with homework. It's a Saturday right now, and I have a large to do list waiting for me.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't address all the problems by the some what some educational um, people who work in education almost fail to realize is that by giving students an hour, 2 hours, an hour and a half of work every night, that's compounded on every class and really gets to the fundamentals of how much free time does a person need to stay healthy. By taking up 12, 14 hours a day of just the same schoolwork over and over, and then on top of that, trying to get enough sleep. I mean, me and you both have heard countless stories of people saying they got 5, 6, 3 hours of sleep because of how much work they had to do. And on top of that, having a part-time job where you're expected to work 4 to 6 hours a day is, and then take 8 hours on the weekend. It's an unsustainable method if we're going to preserve the well-being of students.
It definitely sets people up for burnout.
Exactly, exactly. So as a student leader, what do you think what have you done specifically to address these issues in your experience with the student council and the other ways you're involved?
Like I said, I'm a huge advocate for mental health and always have been. And so to me, that's been something that I really want to capitalize on at Leo Hayes and make sure students know that it's a place where we know as a school community that we can improve. And we want people to be able to be open about their struggles and transparent. So in 2020, I was in the process of planning Leo Hayes's first mental health week. I had a guest speaker coming in from Toronto to do an assembly. I had plans to do a school-wide assembly on the importance of being an ally for the mental health community, daily sessions set up with experts for minority groups like the LGBTQ community and men who are often overlooked when it comes to mental health issues, as well as like some smaller things like therapy dogs and yoga sessions. Unfortunately, COVID did have other plans. And so I did not get to enjoy that week to the full capacity that I had things planned to. We did pivot and do a little bit of an online thing by sharing kind of some coping mechanisms and some resources that people could use throughout their isolation period. But I'm already in the process of plans for April 2021, Leo Hayes's first, or I guess second, mental health week.
Yes, and I'm very excited for that myself. And I wondered if you have just any little teaser trailers for what that could entail for our students.
Again, I'm in the process of setting up things like therapy dogs, yoga sessions, and other general self-care activities that'll hopefully help students to feel a little lighter during their days at school. But I am also looking into sessions specifically this year on burnout and how we can prevent that as students, because I know that among myself and my peers, burnout rates have actually risen this year with the 1 day on, 1 day off system.
I could definitely agree. It seems like when you take away that enforced schedule, students tend to have a lot harder time keeping up with things and staying up till 4 o'clock on days they're not there, 2 o'clock on days they are, waking up at 2 instead of 7 can really have a really profound effect on just the psychological behaviors and kind of patterns that human beings in general develop. What would be,
Absolutely.
what would be,
Ben,
yeah.
my doorbell just rang.
Oh, sure. I can pause the recording. Go get that.
That would be great. Thank you.
Hi guys. Yeah, Anna just had to go get her doorbell, so we'll be back now. And one of our last questions, Anna, what would you suggest tips and tricks to give the students healthy habits to deal with the online nature of COVID and the at-home learning to protect themselves and stay healthy?
I personally have been trying to adopt a schedule that's very similar to the one I would follow on a school day. So I usually do allow myself to sleep in a little bit more, but then I do get up in the morning and begin work by the time I would begin it in period one. So I believe that's 9:40 for Leo Hayes students. And I get to work, and then for me, what I found has proven really, really helpful is allowing myself to take 10 to 15-minute breaks, just like I would at school after I finish one class's worth of work.
That's an incredible system. Myself, I think taking proper breaks, and especially when you have your at-home guided personal learning that you do, you really have the opportunity to fit that learning style to your own. So if you work best in maybe a 4-hour burst, do that. If you work best in 15-minute chunks with 5-minute breaks, do that. Any way that you can find the positive in the developments around COVID. I mean, it's affected us all incredibly deeply in our life and in our work. And I know you mentioned that burnout rates have gone up, which they have, and it's worrying because these students they don't just get to take a break when they're home. It is a work day, even though the regular temptations of being home can be there. And as student leaders, what do you think we can do to better address mental health, better address COVID concerns, to better address the effects on our students' educations? And what are actions that we're not taking right now that you think we should or could do in the future, even if they were require some system changes?
To me, communication is key. And so I think that as student leaders, we need to be a voice for students who don't feel like they can speak up for themselves. So that means talking to other students, listening, most importantly, to our peers and to those around us, and raising those concerns to people at a higher level, to administration, superintendents, to the district, however far up that needs to go, to make sure that we are using our voices, voicing our student concerns, and making sure that everybody is having the best possible year they can be.
That is truly incredible. We are hopping up on our time, so I want to thank you so much for participating in this conversation today. I hope our listeners have gotten something from it, have learned something from it, and can go forward and bring positive change to their schools, or even just being a shoulder to lean on. And let your students know you're there. Let them know that the people around you, that you care about them, and that everyone's going through this together. Thanks again, Anna. Where can our listeners find you? On social medias, in school? Where can they contact you at?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is at Anna Lingley. And you can contact me there just about any time. Also on Facebook, Anna Lingley. I'm pretty easy to find. And at school, if you need me, just give me a shout.
Well, this has truly been a deep and inspiring conversation for me. I want to thank you again for being such an amazing guest. And we will be back with our next installment with our second guest, Keaton Tapley. So I hope to see you all there, and keep it groovy.
Thank you so much.